Good morning. Welcome all. Welcome to you in the sanctuary and to those of you at home on Zoom, to our Sunday service, Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We welcome those of all faiths and beliefs, and those of none. We favor correct action over correct belief. We aspire to the shared principles intentionally drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature, science, philosophy, and personal practice. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. Today, we are honored to have Reverend Don Stouder with us, virtually. He's a career hospital and hospice chaplain and medical ethicist, and has served the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert in various capacities since moving to the Palm Springs Desert in the summer of 2017 with his husband, Tim. And welcome online, Reverend. We are recording today's service, and we'll turn it off for our community gathering after the service. And now let us calm our minds and hearts with our musical prelude.
Good morning. I'm going to play There Is a Balm in Gilead, arranged by Mark Hayes.
Thank you, Karen. Truly a balm. We have several announcements this morning. Sandy, would you and Jim like to come forward, please?
Good morning. Here to report on the generosity campaign, and as you can see from the thermometer on the slide, we're at about 60%, which is great news. Only, however, about 30% of our expected donors have pledged, which might sound, oh wow, we could really blow up that thermometer. However, many of our larger donors have already pledged, not all, and getting that other 60%, 70% to pledge is the goal of the stewards who are going to be contacting you in the next week or two if you have not yet pledged. So please fill out the electronic forms that were distributed, pick one up at the office or call the office and we'll mail one to you. We really appreciate those of you who have gone forward and pledged, and look forward to hearing from some of the others of you so that we can continue this wonderful fellowship together.
Good morning. I'm Jim Weed, one of the co-chairs of the Welcoming and Membership Committee here at Summit. And the Welcoming and Membership Committee invites you to join us at Summit for two events. The first event is a conversation about the proposed changes to the UUA principles and purposes. This will happen next Sunday, April 23rd at 12 noon in the Summit Library. Have you heard about the Article 2 report and changes proposed to the UU principles? They will be voted on at the General Assembly in June. Your views are important to helping Summit's delegates understand and share the views of our congregation on the proposed changes. Article 2 of the UU bylaws, principles, and purposes is the foundation of our shared values and the covenant to which all UU congregations and communities agree to as members of the UUA. The last substantial change to these principles were made in 1985. The other event is Getting to Know Us. This is going to be an orientation for newcomers who've been attending Summit either virtually or in person. Learn more about our fellowship in Unitarian Universalism. Join us in a relaxed conversation about Unitarian Universalism, Summit, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and their histories with the Welcoming and Membership Committee. This is going to occur on Sunday, May 7th at 12 noon in the Summit Library. Eleanor Weed, president of Summit, Mary Carter Vale, who is recovering from her new hip surgery, who's the director of RE, and the Welcoming and Membership Committee will be in attendance. For the second event, coffee and croissants will be served to hopefully bribe you to attend. Also, both events are planned to be accessible to join via Zoom. RSVP information can be found in the weekly e-news or the scene. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Sandy. For more than 10,000 years, the Kumeyaay people have lived in harmony on this land. Fishers, hunters, farmers, artisans, chemists, physicists, astrologers, and marine biologists. We acknowledge our fellowship resides on unceded land, which continues to be the home to the Kumeyaay people. Eleanor, can you help me light the chalice, please? These are words by Eric Cherry. The chalice is lit in our hearts each time we comfort our neighbors, pray for vision, long for healing, forgive our enemies, and prepare for Justice's Day. In its light, our hope and compassion are renewed, and the covenantal ties that bind each of us to all become clear. Now, by its sacred flame, the path before us is brightened. Love prepares our way. Now please stand as you are able and sing our UU hymn and then UU aspiration. Spirit of this fellowship, may the quest for truth be its and service be its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now we have time for all ages.
Don, I'm very glad you're joining us today virtually. And I wanted to let everybody know that I saw Mary last Sunday and talked to her yesterday and a couple times in between, and she's sounding really good. Happier and stuff than I've heard her in a while, and it's really nice. And the physical therapist is really pleased with her progress, and life is good. This is a story called The Boy with Big, Big Feelings by Brittany Winley, illustrated by Jacob Suva. There once was a boy with feathery hair and a heart that was bursting with feeling. His emotions seemed bigger than everyone else's, and sometimes they made him go reeling. When playing outside on the yellowest days, a loud truck might rumble on by. And wouldn't you know that that big heart of his would push feelings right out of his eyes? At night, when the shadows would form on the walls and fear would steal all his rest, those feelings of his made it so hard to breathe as they jumped up and down on his chest. Sometimes when his play had come to an end, or when things didn't go as he planned, the feelings would run down the length of his arms and clench when they got to his hands. He felt happy feelings as big as the others, from tickles and hide-and-go-seek, and jokes and races and stories and songs that made feelings glow from his cheeks. Beautiful things would stick in his brain and not leave him for hours and hours. The fur of a dog, a fluffy white cloud, his mama, a banjo, some flowers. But when someone he loved had a very hard day, he felt he'd been over-equipped to feel all their feelings as deeply as they, which would quiver right out of his lip. He wondered, why me? Why this big giant heart in a world that is so heavy and kind, where all of the feelings under the sun feel as if they were made to be mine? So the boy tried to stuff all his feelings deep down to control what he thought he should hide, afraid that the others would make fun of him if they saw what he felt deep inside. Would they think he was weak, dramatic, afraid? Would they call him a wimp or a baby? If they saw the big thumping heart inside his chest, would they not want to play with him, maybe? But while swinging one day, feeling oh so alone, he noticed a girl feeling blue. He marveled, what's that? Could it be? Yes, indeed. Her emotions were extra big, too. Are you okay? The boy asked the girl. I'm fine. Sometimes I get sad. He said, oh, you do? Hey, I get sad too. I get scared and silly and mad. The two became pals who shared their big hearts, not feeling they had to pretend when they needed to cry or to laugh big and loud, since feelings had helped make them friends. And soon they noticed there were other big hearts in the classroom, the playground, the bus, and they smiled as they learned that it wasn't just them. Big emotions affect all of us. The boy and his friends slowly felt less alone with the feelings that lived deep inside them. Emotions might feel big and scary sometimes, but that's no reason to hide them. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. Now, let's please stand as you are able, and we'll sing number 1012, When I Am Frightened. Our meditation prayer, and this is from the former slave and wonderful orator Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech, which was actually delivered on the 5th of July in 1852. 76 years, though a good old age for a man, is but a mere speck of time in the life of a nation. 80 years and 10 is the allotted time for individual men, but nations number their years by thousands. According to this fact, you are even now only in the beginning of your national career, still lingering in the period of childhood. I repeat, I am glad this is so. There is hope in the thought, and hope is much needed under the dark clouds which lower above the horizon. The eye of the reformer is met with angry flashes, portending disastrous times. But his heart may well beat lighter at the thought that America is young and that she is still in the impressionable stage of her existence. May he not hope that high lessons of wisdom, of justice, and of truth will yet give direction to her destiny? Were the nation older, the patriot's heart might be sadder, and the reformer's brow heavier. Its future might be shrouded in gloom, and the hope of its prophets go out in sorrow. There is consolation in the thought that America is young. The far-off and almost fabulous Pacific rolls in grandeur at our feet. The celestial empire, the mystery of ages, is being solved. The fiat of the Almighty, let there be light, has not yet spent its force. No abuse, no outrage can now hide itself from the all-pervading light. And now we'll hear from Reverend Don Stouder. Reverend?
Well, hello and good morning. I wasn't expecting this little experience of hanging out with you all from Summit to be emotional. It's delightful to be back among you again and see so many familiar faces. And I can't lie, when I heard you all singing that hymn, I thought to myself, there's the Summit congregation I remember, so good job. I'm coming to you this morning from Palm Desert, California, where I've lived with my husband Tim now for 5 or 6 years, and I serve an organization called Reliance Hospice as the chaplain and as the manager of the bereavement program. I do a fair amount of grief counseling. So Sunday's a work day, so it turns out I had to be here anyway, so I'm delighted to spend a little bit of that with you. I want to start with a reading. This is by UU Reverend Molly Gordon. To survive the end of the world, stockpile seeds, water purifying tablets, and essential drugs. Learn first aid and how to shoot a gun or a crossbow. Relearn the skills your ancestors had, like building shelters and starting fires. Travel with a diverse group with many varied skills, perspectives, hopes, and memories. You need the children and the elders too. Find a defensible location with an adequate supply of water and good soil. Use the landscape that is left. And for God's sake, check the back seat for zombies before you get in the car. Ever since the era of COVID-19 began, my husband and friends and various coworkers and I have been half jokingly, half seriously plotting how to survive the end of the world, or as we like to call it, the zombie apocalypse, over board games, over potluck dinners, over heated conversation, and over Zoom happy hours. It's toned down a bit since we decided to reopen the world, but still, nobody feels safe anymore, 1 foot in real life, and another on high alert, ready to run out the door. Do you feel that in the people around you the way that I do? Just 1 second, I'm hearing my own voice through my speaker, so I need to turn that down. We're halfway joking because we understand instinctively what T.S. Eliot wrote at the end of his poem, The Hollow Man, which some of us read in AP English. This is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but with a whimper. It's not going to be as cataclysmic as total breakdown all at once. Apocalypse moves more slowly than that. It's always less obvious. In every zombie movie, only the truly alarmists notice what is happening before it's too late. Surviving is more like rooting down in community over years and decades and less like a mad dash to a remote castle. We're halfway joking about the end of the world because in some ways what we face isn't new. The world is always ending somewhere and another always being born. It ended on September 11th, 2001, and a new one began on September 12th. It ends and begins in every generation, sometimes more than once. There have been worlds ending since humans could first conceive of a world. The world has been ending since the moment it began, and it has ended and begun in every age. Here is one good true thing about that. We each hold personal and ancestral wisdom about how to survive the end of the world because we've already been doing it. We're halfway serious about the end of the world because now when we say the world is ending, we mean something a bit more universal. We mean an actual crisis in the existence of life on Earth. We mean the sixth great extinction, which is more rapid and more complete than any in the ancient history of the Earth, and which this time just might include us. God knows Mother Earth is trying to include us, most frequently with a virus whose course we still do not know and cannot predict even after 3 years. We mean that the climate catastrophe we learned about before we were old enough to doubt science is here. It's worse than we thought, it's happening faster than we imagined, and it is accelerating. And it brought a new virus with it that takes a licking but keeps on ticking. And so, yes, we're serious about surviving the end of the world, but only as serious as we can afford to be while staying emotionally and spiritually intact. The world needs us to stay emotionally and spiritually intact. My 3 grandchildren and their grandchildren need us to stay emotionally and spiritually intact. I'm the grandfather of 3 smart humans who will inherit the earth, who will inherit the work we do in this moment. And so I want to tell you that I have no interest in despair and no time for fatalism. I'm here to grieve and feel my way through this with you, and I'm here to talk about adaptation and survival. Because the apocalypse is already unfolding in 100 different ways, and it has been, and what we do to build community and adapt and find beauty and joy matters for how it all continues to unfold. One of the things I find myself doing most often in my ministry as a chaplain and counselor is being present to the grief that humans encounter when we truly understand that we cannot save the people we love from addiction, from disease, from 100 ways the world hurts. And one of the beautiful truths I often witness is that when we own the truth of our helplessness and turn toward our grief, new possibilities always seem to open up. In these times, we need to apply that productive grief to our relationship with the world. We cannot save the world, but we can find transforming ways to spend our soul on and with it. And that may make all the difference to our survival. To remain emotionally and spiritually intact in these times, we need to turn and face all that is being destroyed. We need to grieve and lament it in the depths of community. And we need to sit in the rubble of it and pick up the pebbles and watch them fall through our fingers. And we need to turn our face toward the sun, late in the day though it may be. We need to attend to the beauty that is still here, the connection that never left, and the new life that springs up even in the midst of death, because the breakdown and the rebuilding are happening all at the same time and must. Climate activist Rachel Taylor commented on T.S. Eliot in a reflection that I've been thinking about ever since I read it, because it resonates so profoundly with my experience in this time of climate breakdown, while the forces of nationalism and patriarchy and global predatory capitalism are all at once quietly crumbling and loudly reasserting themselves all around us. Here's what she wrote, quote, The real secret of the apocalypse is not that it comes with a bang or a whimper, but that it comes while you're doing other things. Taking the kids to school, paying the bills, going to see your friends play, all the stuff of normal life happens until it doesn't for you. But your neighbor still has to do the laundry and schlep his mom to the grocery store. So you try to keep going and take care of the things that are still working, while also trying to fight injustice and stop genocide. You do what you can. Some days it's just surviving. Other days you can put your body between the machine and those more vulnerable than you are. But you can't do that every day until you have to. The secret is that you don't get a break to build a better world. You have to do it while still surviving in this one. You have to do it like a secret obsession, like a shameful hobby. You have to do it because it's exciting and dangerous and subversive and necessary. You have to share it with other travelers like yourself because you're not alone in this wanting, this desire. But you still have to do the dishes. End quote. Life as we know it isn't ending exactly, not for those of us in this wealthy country. It's changing dramatically, but not entirely, and not for everyone, and not all at once. And perhaps that's part of the problem, because it's life as we know it that got us here. Like a zombie virus, the apocalypse was planted like a seed in everything about the extractive economy that shaped our world and our lives. It's been cropping up here and there. It's been lying dormant, but it's riddling the whole world ever since someone first decided on a lifestyle of plunder. And we have to live in that world, fighting the zombie virus. And just in case it's not clear, by the way, the real zombie virus is predatory capitalism and every injustice imaginable that has become a harmful variant of it. It's the worldview that steals worth instead of respecting and multiplying it. We have to fight it in us and in everything that we love about our lives. We have to heal from it while living in it. We have to grow something new while we cut it back from its chokehold on our lives. My sermon this morning takes its title and a big dose of inspiration from a podcast created by liberation activists Adrian and Autumn Brown. Inspired by the scary dystopian work of Black science fiction writer Octavia Butler, the Brown sisters set out to create a podcast that learns from apocalypse with grace and rigor. It takes seriously all the things that are painfully ending and must end in our world, but it takes equally seriously the things that were birthing and growing to take their place. They have episodes on creating restorative justice practices in the midst of the apocalypse, that is mass incarceration, embodied healing in the midst of the apocalypse, that is Christian nationalism, rest and pleasure in the apocalyptic grind of capitalism, growing and preserving food in the midst of climate apocalypse, and more. Their point, and mine, is that if we are to survive, the world as we know it must end, and is ending, and we're surviving its end and building and birthing the new, all at once. Joanna Macy identifies this moment as a decision point when we'll either enter the great unraveling or choose a great turning back to the earth and one another. As the climate justice collective movement generation puts it, the transition is happening. The question now is, will it be just? The world as we know it, the one that is ending and must end if we are to survive, is structured around what the movement generation calls the extractive economy. This economy describes not just how money moves, but how our society is structured around extracting and controlling value, worth, and wealth from the Earth's resources, including her people. All the big systems of domination are built around this ethic. And after millennia of its perfection, We have no idea what a world without it would look like. There's a saying attributed to both philosophers Frederick Jameson and Slavoj Zizek. It's easier to imagine an end to the world than an end to capitalism. Our leaders seem to take them at their word. But to survive the end of the world, we must not only imagine, but actually survive the end of capitalism. The trouble, of course, is that we have no idea how to do that. It's too big to fail, too assumed in our lives to even understand. It is simply reality. And so we must live in unreality. We don't know how, but we must do it anyway, or consent to a bigger, badder end to the world than we've ever known. In her speech to the British Parliament, Greta Thunberg told us, avoiding climate breakdown will require cathedral thinking. We must lay the foundation. While we may not know exactly how to build the ceiling, sometimes we just simply have to find a way. According to the Movement Generation Collective, a just transition will be one that moves us from an extractive economy to a regenerative economy. Movement Generation suggests that we make this transition by divesting from the extractive economy, starving and stopping its power by removing our cooperation, while simultaneously investing in the regenerative economy, feeding and growing its power. The decision point we see unfolding now is the question of whether a few will succeed in doubling down on extracting wealth and worth from the earth and its peoples, or whether the many will awaken together into the work of shift, starving the structures of the extractive economy by investing in a regenerative economy focused towards sacredness and mutual thriving. As Rachel Taylor pointed out, the secret is that you don't get to build a better world. You have to do it while still surviving in this one. But here is another secret from the movement generation. The way we truly survive is by investing in all of the alternatives that starve the extractive economy. The way we truly survive is by demanding big change and finding small ways to live in the world we seek to create. It's as simple and as difficult as that. Wherever you can, fight the extractive economy, demand its dismantlement at the seats of power, and find ways to starve it where you live. And then, wherever you can, opt into deep community, because that's how we survive. It's how life survives. We tear down the walls, we grow roots for another way inside the world that is crumbling. And so, inspired by all of what I just said and referenced above, and by all my colleagues and frontline teachers, here is my not at all joking, totally serious list of how to survive the end of the world. Get to know your neighbors, feed them, let them feed you, watch each other's kids, grandkids, and pets. Develop the muscle of generosity like you're training for running an ultra marathon. Share everything you can with anyone who asks, and ask for what you need. Get in touch with your body. You will need it, and it knows things. Pay attention to what's happening above and below your neck. Tell the truth, but tell it to yourself first. Sit at the feet of your most vulnerable neighbors in your own most vulnerable places. They have the most to teach you about survival if you listen. Remember your ancestors and the things they survived. Find the resilience that is your birthright and the courage that made way for your life. Practice taking risks. Show up in every struggle where someone's fighting for their dignity, because that's how we all will survive. Learn to be tender. Refuse to be hardened. Let your heart be moved every damn time. Root in the place you are. Learn its history. Learn its culture. Learn its geography. Learn its lessons. Sing, even badly. a lot, and dance and make art and rest luxuriously and eat pie and love people, not things. And finally, lean into the whispers of the wind and listen for the words of Jacques Cousteau. This is our hope, that the children born today may still have 20 years hence a bit of green grass under their feet, a breath of clean air to breathe, a patch of blue water to sail upon, and a whale on the horizon to set them dreaming. In your many holy names we pray. Amen.
Reverend. Tell the truth, but tell it to yourself first. I love that. Sing, even badly, and then dance. We're not singing badly, we're singing wonderfully this morning. If Summit is a valued community in your life, please support us by making an offering today. Our Zoomers at home are invited to contribute to our virtual plate. The link can be found in the chat box. And we acknowledge our volunteers of time and talent. It truly takes all of us. Now we will gratefully accept your generous donations during the musical interlude.
The piece I'm playing called Estja is Mount Estja is a mountain often referred to as a mountain in the southwest of Iceland and north of Icelandic capital Reykjavik. And it is not, in fact, a single mountain, but a volcanic mountain range formed of basalt and tuff with ever-changing patterns of snow and clouds around its top. It shows a new face every day. So it's, for me, this music is very calming and centering. And my son, who is working in regenerative agriculture in Berlin, discovered this pianist and her music, and I really enjoyed it. So you can find her online if you enjoy this piece. She's got some beautiful recordings.
Thank you, Karen. Now let us stand as we are able and sing 1060 as we sing of hope and joy. Our closing words from Rebecca Savage, Spirit of Life, Spirit of Love. We have gathered under the banner of a shared faith. We are born of a welcoming grace that extends and receives love. We are touched by the ways we have fallen short of who we strive to be. And we are here reborn, forged by a greater courage. Let us move from this place encouraged and refreshed for the journey ahead. Please join us next Sunday to hear Reverend Arvid Straube. From his Buddhist practice for more than 40 years, he will share a few life hacks from the Buddha. I'd like to thank all the members of the Sunday Service Committee and Carol Schnabelt, who prepared today's gathering, and our Hospitality Committee, who welcome you to the salon after our question-answer gathering here. Now we will join hands and sing our closing circle song. We will now have our community gathering, and we'll take